Today we are going to review the movie Fight Club that came in 1999, and let's do its full movie review and analysis. So Fight Club presents a protagonist whose identity is already broken before the story begins. He lives correctly but not meaningfully. His life is assembled from routines, products, and experiences and expectations that provide comfort without fulfillment. The film established emptiness not as sadness, but as numbness, a state where existence continues without purpose. He is not unhappy, he is absent from himself. And if we talk about insomnia as a symptom, not a problem, the insomnia is not a medical condition. It's a psychological rejection. Sleep would require peace, and peace would require identity. The mind refuses rest because it has nowhere safe to land. Sleeplessness blurs reality, creating a fragile boundary between what is experienced and what is imagined. Reality begins to subtend, certainty begins to erode. If we talk about pain as proof of existence, when violence enters the film, it is not treated as chaos, it is treated as grounding. Pain becomes proof. Physical damage confirms presence. The body finals demands attention when the mind has lost direction. Bruises replace meaning. Pain becomes clarity, and if we talk about masculinity as displacement, the film does not celebrate masculinity. It exposes its displacement, and strength is sought because purpose is missing. Aggression replaces direction. The men are empowered, they are lost and attempting to fail real again. And power is not confidence here, it is depression shaped like control through destruction. And destruction becomes a substitute for creation when characters can't build identity, they dismantle structure instead. Breaking objects, rules, and bodies becomes a way to assert influence in a world where personal agency feels erased. And if we talk about if nothing can be owned meaningfully, then nothing deserves to exist in time. And if we talk about Tyler Durden as idealized escape, Tyler represents certainty without doubt. He speaks in absolute moves without hesitation and rejects compromise. He is not complex. He is digestive that digest makes him intoxicating, and he is not freedom. He is relief from thinking. And if we talk about the seduction of absolutism, the film shows how easily frustration evolves into ideology. What begins as personal rebellion becomes collective doctrine. Certainty spread quickly when people are tired of questioning themselves. Belonging feels better than understanding. And if we talk about community built on violence, The Fight Club is not about fighting, it is about shared suffering. Pain become the language of connection. The man bond not through conversation but through endurance. Silence replaces vulnerability, blood replaces honesty, and loss of individual thought. As the movement grows, individual fades, rules replace choice, uniform behavior replace personal identity. What was meant to liberate becomes rigid, freedom collapse into structure, rebellion becomes obedience. And if we talk about the horror of realization, but the truth emerge is not shocking. It's devastating. The realization is not about surprise but about responsibility. The protagonist must confront the consequences of surrendering agency to certainty. The enemy was never external, it was the desire to stop deciding. If we talk about self-confirmation as final conflict, the climax is not physical, it is psychologically. The final battle is about ownership of action and thought. It is about reclaiming authorship over one's life. And violence no longer liberates, awareness does. And if we talk about tone and atmosphere, the film maintains a cold, controlled tone throughout. Even sounds feel measured. The restraint reinforces the idea that the danger is not madness but logic takes too far. And if we talk about nothing feels accidental, everything feels intentional. And if we talk about core reflections, Fight Club is not a film about violence, masculinity, or rebellion. It is a film about identity, avoidance. It shows how easily people trade self-awareness for certainty and how destruction can feel meaningful when a creator feels impossible. The film doesn't offer comfort, it offers confirmation. If we talk about more review, then yes, we can talk about it. Let's go for its more review. It will take little time, so you have to wait. Sorry, I apologize. If we talk about consumer comfort as emotional selection, the film treats consumer culture not as evil and unesthetic. I have to reload, guys. If we talk about consumer comfort as emotional sedation, the film treats consumer culture not as evil but as aesthetic. Objects promise identity but only deliver distraction. The protagonist's apartment is perfectly furnished and completely lifeless. Comfort replaces curiosity, choice replaces purpose. He owns everything except himself. And if we talk about support group and borrowed emotion, the group work because they work borrowed suffering by witnessing genuine pain. The protagonist briefly accesses emotion without owning it. He cries not because he understands himself, but because someone else's tragedy gives him permission to feel. Empathy becomes a tool, not a connection. And if we talk about Marla as emotion disruption, Marla destabilizes the system because she mirrors dishonesty. She exposes performance by performing it herself. Her presence breaks the illusion that pain can be consumed safely. She refuses to play roles cleanly, and that Charles returns the protagonist's emotional spartacus. She feels without structure that makes her dangerous. And if we talk about violence as ritual, not anger, the fight are ritualistic. There is no rage, no revenge, no hatred. The violence follows rules, repetition, and mutual consent. The ritual transforms pain into order, and pain becomes organized. Organization feels like meaning. And if we talk about masculinity stripped of narrative, masculinity in the film has no story attached to it. There are no goal, no legacy, no future vision. Strength exists only in the present moment. This emptiness is why it escalates. Without narrative intensity must increase to stay effective, and when there is no direction, volume becomes purpose. And if we talk about Tyler's certainty as psychological relief, Tyler's power comes from his refusal to doubt. Doubt is exhausting. The certainty feels clean. He offers answers that requires no reflection, only obedience. He removes choice that feels like freedom. The illusion of awakening. The film carefully shows that waking up can be just another fantasy. Rejecting one illusion does not guarantee truth. It may only replace it with a louder one. Awareness without responsibility is just another thing. And if we talk about ideology replacing identity, as Project Mayhem grows, language disappear, names disappear, individual history disappear, identity becomes uniform because uniform removes risk, thinking is outsourced, belonging fills the gap, control masquerading as liberation. The movement promises freedom but demands surrender. Rules multiply punishment enforcedly. Royalty what began as rebellion hardens into authority. Revolution becomes heresy without admitting it. And if we talk about the terror of self-authorship, the true horror of the film is not violence of chaos. It is authorship realizing that every action is one's own remorse. All excuses, there is no enemy left to fight. Responsibility is heavier than pain. The final act is expectation, not victory. The ending is not triumph, it is acceptance. The protagonist does not undo destruction. He stops running from himself, he accepts consequence. Rather than certainty, control is not reclaimed ownership is. And if we talk about emotional aftermath without resolution, the film ends without emotional safety. There is no promise of healing, only presence, only awareness. The future is undefined and death is quiet. If we talk about deepest eternal meaning, Fight Club is a film about the fear of being ordinary without being authentic. It exposes how easily dissatisfaction mutates into ideology and how violence can feel like clarity when identity feels impossible. The film does not ask what do you believe, it asks who is choosing for you. And if you go for its more review, and if we talk about emptiness discussed as a success, the film frames this success as a complete checklist rather than a lived experience. The protagonist has followed every instruction given by society and that obedience has emptied him. Achievement exists but fulfillment never arrives. Completion doesn't equal meaning. And if we talk about the self as product, the protagonist treats himself the way he treats furniture as something assembled from instruction. Personality becomes modular, desire is imported, nothing originates eternally, identity is outsourced. And if we talk about crying as temporary exhaustion, when he cries in support groups, it feels like recovery, but it's temporary. These moments do not restore identity. The, they release pressure. Once the pressure returns, so does the void. Relief is making for healing. And if we talk about Marla as unfiltered reality, Mala represents emotional mess without ideology. She does not organize pain into meaning, she simply lives inside it. This makes her incompatible with both consumer comfort and violent certainty. She does not explain herself, that makes her real. And if we talk about Tyler as a psychological shortcut, Tyler is not complex because complexity would require patience. His efficiency collapse doubts, fear, and confusion into command. This efficiency is why his shortcut feels like truth, and when thinking hurts, and if we talk about the appeal of eraser, the promise of losing one's name, history, and responsibility feels liberating. Eraser becomes desirable because existence feels heavy. Disappearance is framed as peace. And if we talk about violence as simplification, violence simplifies experience. There is no ambiguity during pain. The body that dictates reality clearly. This clarity is addictive, and pain removes introspection. The slide from ritual to dogma. What begins as mutual consent turns into obligation, the ritual hardens into doctrine. Once rules appear, curiosity disappears. Rules, uh, rules replace trust. And if we talk about authority without accountability, Tyler's authority is absolute because it is never questioned. He can't be wrong because doubt has been declared weakness. Certainty protects itself. And if we talk about the fear of being alone with thought, the most frightening moments in the film are quiet ones, silence allows thought. Thought invites responsibility, noise becomes protection. And if we talk about destruction and identity, performance, this destroying system becomes a performance of identity rather than a solution. The act matters more than the outcome. Action replaces the intention. And if we talk about the collapse of meaning, as the movement expands, meaning collapses under scale. What felt personal becomes abstract, individual becomes replaceable. Skill, intimacy, and if we talk about self confrontation, without escape, then when the protagonist realizes the truth escapes is impossible, there is no villain to defeat, there is only ownership and understanding arrives. And if we talk about understanding arrives without comfort, if we talk about and as psychological stillness, the ending is quite not triumphant. For the first time, motion stops not because everything is fixed, but because avoidance has ended, stillness is faced. And if we talk about the film lasting unease, the film remains unsettling because it offers no correct substitute history. It dismantles illusion but refuses to build new ones. And if we talk about there is no replacement ideology, only responsibility. If we talk about the just internal core, Fight Club is a film about the terror of choosing oneself without instruction. It shows how dissatisfaction turns into certainty and how certainty becomes tyranny. The film does not warn against violence, it warns against surrendering authorship. If we talk about more, and if we talk about the fear of unscripted life, the film's deepest anxiety is not violence or chaos, it is life without instruction. The protagonist has lived entirely by scripts, corporate rules, consumer logic, social expectation. When these scripts collapse, nothing replaces them. Freedom appears, but it has no shape. And if we talk about Tyler as the death of ambiguity, Tyler appeal lies in hatred of ambiguity he removes. Gray areas, hesitation, and self-vision. His worldview is brutal because it is simple. Simple ideas feel safe when the self feels fragile. And if we talk about the seduction of being told what you are, Project Mayhem success because it tells people exactly who they are, no confusion, no exploration. Identity is assigned, not discovered. Assigned identity feels lighter than earned identity. And if we talk about pain as a shortcut to presence, pain bypass reflections. It forces awareness instantly. The film shows how tempting this shortcut becomes when inner life feels inescapable. Suffering becomes a tool, not a consequence. Uh, consequence. If we talk about masculinization as reaction, not essence, the masculinity in the film is reactive. It exists only because something is missing. It has no eternal center, only options. Strength forms where direction is absent, and if we talk about community without intimacy, and and if we talk about community without intimacy, The men are together but never close. They share peace, space, pain, and obedience. Not understanding intimacy would require vulnerability, and vulnerability is written the system together replaces connection. And if we talk about the horror of replaceability, as the movement grow individual and anyone can be substituted. This reveals the true cost of surrendering identity, disappearance, and if we talk about belonging requires erasure. And if we talk about horror discussed as chaos, Project Mayhem pretends to be chaos but it is rigidly ordered. Rules, punishment, hierarchy, everything, rebellion, claims to hate returns in a stricter form. And if we talk about then control never disappear, it only changes hand. And if we talk about the protagonist, the true crisis, his real crisis is not Tyler. He is the realization, not he choose him. There is no external enemy to blame, choice can't be undone. And if we talk about awareness as burden, in truth arise it brings no relief. Awareness doesn't save him. It isolates him. Knowledge removes illusion, not responsibility. And understanding is heavy. And it's learning, so it will take little time, so you have to wait for a little while. So let's back again to the movie review. And if we talk about the film's refusal to heal, the film doesn't heal its character or its audience. Healing would imply a solution. The film offers none, it only removes lies. And if you talk about why the film endures Fight Club endurance because it does not ease into comfort, it questions, remains unresolved, its warning remain uncomfortable, it doesn't tell you what to believe, it asks whether you are choosing or being chosen for. And if you talk about more review, then let's go for its more review. It's taking loading, guys, so you have to wait a little. Okay, if I talk about the terror of choosing desire, the film reveals that desire itself can be frightening when the protagonist finally confronts what he wants. There is no clarity on responsibility. Desire is no longer suggested by advisements or rules. It must be owned. Wanting becomes dangerous then when no one tells you what to want. And if we talk about Tyler and permission not wow, Tyler is true function is the permission. He gives the protagonist permission to break rules, to be cruel, to be decisive. The danger is not Tyler's strength, it is how eagerly that permission is accepted. Authority is addictive when it removes guilt, the comfort of being wrong together. Like mayhem offers collective eras, being wrong together feels safer than being uncertain alone. Conscience replaces truth, and if we talk about pen as language without interpretation, pain removes misunderstanding, it communicates instantly. The film shows how appealing this clarity becomes when words fail. And if we talk about pain, says only one thing you are here. Masculinity as a response to invisibility. The men are not angry because they are oppressed, they are angry because they feel unseen. Violence becomes a way to force recognition. If the world won't look, make it look. And if we talk about the illusion of brotherhood, the brotherhood promises equality, but equal failures, uniformity, equality without individually becomes eraser. Sameness pretends to fairness. If we talk about discipline, masquerading as freedom. Strict rules are obeyed because they remove anything life feels or feels like rules guide the mind. The psychological cost of certainty. Certainty removes fear but also removes growth. Once everything is answered, nothing remains to be discovered. Certainty is emotional death. And if we talk about Marla as the only unmanaged presence, Marla does not cover pain into ideology, she does not explain it, she lives with contradiction. This makes her incompatible with every system in the film, and she survives because she does not simplify herself. And if we talk about the protagonist's loneliness movement, his loneliest moment is not isolation, it is recognition, seeing the truth, meaning losing every application's knowledge, isolate because it removes burden, pressures, violence, losing its meaning when violence is exercised as avoidance, it becomes empty, it no longer provides grounding, it becomes repetition without relief. The shortcut stop working, the courage to remain present, the ending demands a different kind of courage. Not courage, aggression, not rebellion, but presence, standing still without ideology is the hardest act the film presents. If we talk about stillness is the final risk, no replacement narrative. The film, the film refuses to replace one belief system with another. This refusal is intentionally any replacement would become another dialogue. There is no answer offered because answers are the problem. We talk about the film's final demand. Fight Club doesn't ask for admiration or agreement. It demands self-examination. It leaves the viewer alone with choice. No rules, no guide, no comfort, only authorship. Let's go for its more review and analysis. If we talk about the fear of living without narrative, the film exposes a deep fear of life without a story. The protagonist is not afraid of death, he is afraid of existing without a narrative that explains himself. Tyler provides a story, Project Mayhem provides a story. When those collapse, nothing replaces them. And if we talk about and meaning disappears before life does. As we go, Tyler at the end of self-questioning. Tyler is powerful because he ends questioning. Doubt is exhausting. Tyler removes doubt entirely. His confidence is absolute not because it is true, but because it is loud and complete. Certainty, silence. Here by silence, in thought, the seduction of losing choice. Choice is heavy. Responsibility follows it. The film shows how tempting it is to surrender choice to a system that promises clarity. Obedience feels lighter than freedom. Violence and emotional comparison. Violence compresses emotion into a single sensation. Complexity disappears. Confusion disappears. Only impact remains. Pain simplifies existence. Defeat of one masculinity seeking permission to exist. The men are not discovering masculinity, they are seeking permission for it. They want rules that tell them what they are allowed to feel strong, angry, or alive. Rules legitimize impulse. If we talk about community built on silence, the bond between men is not formed through understanding but through shared silence. They do not speak about pain, they observe it together. Silence replaces intimacy, the horror of becoming replaceable. As the movement grows, individual dissolve, anyone can be substituted. The self disappears quietly without protest. Belonging demands disappearance, and if the order repeating itself. The film reveals a bitter truth. Rebellion often recreates the very order it opposes. Authority returns, becomes human crave structure. Chaos is temporary, control always comes back. The protagonist's irreversible realization once he understands the truth, there is no undoing it. Awareness does not offer rescue, only responsibility. Knowledge clauses exist. If you talk about guilt without confession, the film doesn't allow confession or forgiveness. Guilt exists without ritual, there is no absolution of one. Responsibility remains unpaid. We talk about violence losing its illusion when violence is no longer mysterious. It loses power, it stops grounding the self, it becomes repetition without meaning, the drug stops working. If we talk about stillness as the hardest act, the final movement demands stillness, not surrender, not dominance, but presence. This is the most difficult act the film presents. To remain without ideology is the final test. And if we talk about Maria as unresolved reality, Maria is not healed, corrected, or explained. She remains unresolved because real people remains unresolved. She exists without conclusion. The film cruel honesty. The film refuses to tell the audience what comes next. Any answer would become another illusion. The future is blank because it must be chosen. If we talk about the best score, Fight Club is a film about the terror of existing without permission. It shows how easily people trade authorship for certainty and how destruction feels meaningful when self-good feels unachievable. The film doesn't end, it lets go and leaves you alone with yourself. And if you talk about more, and if we talk about identity as a temporary arrangement, then we can talk, but it's taking time in loading. Okay, so we can talk identity as temporary element. The film treats identity as something rented, not owned. Names of personality all are provisional. They exist only as long as they useful. Once they fail, they are discarded without more. The self is not sacred, it is functional. And if we talk about the lie of being special, the film attacks the most comforting illusion that individuality itself gives value. Tyler doesn't say people are worthless, he says being unique is irrelevant. This is more disturbing than nihilism because it removes even the consolation prize. You don't matter by different. And if we talk about pain as proof of reality, pain is not caused for massacre, it is pursued because it can't be denied. Thoughts can lie, emotion can be confused, pain is immediate and undeniable. Pain doesn't arrive. And if we talk about why talking never works in the world, language heals repeatedly. Therapy groups are performative, instruction are memorized, speeches become slogans, words are either hollow or weaponized. If we talk about Tyler's real power, permission, Tyler doesn't command, he permits. He allowed man to be cruel, reckless, dominant, and destructive without guilt. That permission is intoxicating. Authority begins where guilt ends. And if we talk about the comfort of it, is Project Mayhem offers strength, peace, anonymity to disappear into a uniform is to escape praise, comparison, reflection, and judgment. No identity means no failure ritual without spirituality. The ritual fights through chants, symbol, religion, strict of there is structure but no meaning beyond evidence from survive after faith. The slow death of empathy as skill increases. Empathy decreases, violence becomes abstract. Faces blur, consequence becomes distorted. Distance kills cosines, conscience. And if we talk about another emotional short circuit, Tyler bypassed grief, fear, and uncertainty. He replaced processing with action that feels powerful until it hollow everything beneath it. Unfelt emotion doesn't disappear, it mutates. And if we talk about the inescapability of responsibility, the film cruelest moment is not the reveal, it's the aftermath. Knowing does not disperse this one it must own action committed by itself. We no longer want to be. We inherit how to create. Now, if we talk about control turning inward, when external enemies ran out, control turns inward. The body uh, becomes the battleground, the mind becomes the prison, evaluation eventually consume their other others. And if you talk about the failure of total destruction, even destruction requires intentional, even chaos requires planning. The dream of erasing system collapse. You can't destroy the need for order. If you talk about Marla as the only risk, Marla is dangerous because she can't be absorbed into ideology. She is inconsistent, needy, alive. She forces contact with reality. Reality resists slogans. And if we talk about the final act, it's not victory. Stopping the plan is not triumph, it is containment. The damage is already done. There is no restoration, only prevention. Some things can't be undone. Why the ending is silent. No more space is delivered, no lesson is declared. The film understands that Conclusion becomes myth. And if we talk about silence prevents replacement illusion. If we talk about the film's most uncomfortable truth, people don't become extreme because they had life. They don't live because life feels thin, empty, whiteless. Destruction adds weight. And if we talk about absolute core, Fight Club 1990 is about what happens when people try to feel real without learning how to live. It shows how easily pain becomes purpose, how certainty replaces truth, and how rebellion becomes another cage. The film doesn't warn, it exposes, and then it steps back and lets you decide whether you recognize yourself. Let's talk about more. If we talk about the fear of an unscripted life, the deepest fear in the film is not death or pain. It is living without asking job, rules, masculinity, rebellion, all of them are scripts. Tyler offers a new one, but it is still a script. The terror comes from moments where no role exists. Freedom is exists. Freedom is frightening because it offers no instruction. How system required the wound and Project Mayhem does not require the strong, it requires the exhausted men who are already broken do not need convincing. They need direction. Direction feels like rescue. And purpose feels like healing. Even when it's poison. If we talk about masculinity as performance and pressure, the film exposes masculinity as something performed under observation. Strength is displayed, pain is proven, weakness is punished. The men are not becoming powerful, they are uh, auditioning. Every fight is a test, and if we talk about the disappearance of the individual face as the growth face fade, names vanish, identity. As an obstacle, this is not accidental. Individuals returns control of faceless crowd can't object. and it's loading, so please wait for 2 minutes. Now, okay, let's go for the review. The exchange of thought for action. Uh, Thinking hard because it opens doubt, action closes it. The film shows how people trade thinking for moment. When the mind becomes unbearable, motion, silence, questions. And if we talk about Tyler's cruel honesty, Tyler speaks truth stripped or compass the film authentic because they lack softness, but the truth without empathy becomes violence. Honesty can earn when it refuses care, and why the rules multiply. Rules increases as fear increases. The more unstable the system, the stricter the discipline and order intensifies as collapse approaches and pain. Special pain creates instant warning shared suffering reflects shared values. This makes loyalty fast and unexamined suffering escapes trust building. The myth of purification and the man believes pain cleanses them, but pain does not purify, it only intensifies what is already there. Pain sharpens, it doesn't transfer. And the moment Tyler stops being useful, Tyler feels the moment he demands obedience instead of awakening when questioning is forbidden. Liberation becomes tyranny. Freedom that forbidden dissent is already dead. If we talk about eternal war as a final battlefield, when external enemies vanish, the war turns inward, the body is punished. And the mind faction control aids itself. The revolution comes from recognition without risk, realizing the truth doesn't say the bottom. There is no abstinence inside arise alone. Awareness is not comfort. The price of self-authorship. Taking ownership means accepting shame, damage, and irreversibility. The film shows that authorship is not empowering, it is burdensome. You carry what you write. And if we talk about the ending as exposure, the final image is not hopeful or hopeless, it's a named system for, but the human remains frightened, presents responsible. No identity stands with him. And if we talk about why the film still cuts, because it doesn't age into comfort, it remains accessory. It continues to ask whether your beliefs are chosen or borrowed, are you thinking or repeating. The film Fight Verdict. Fight Club 1999 suggests that the most dangerous thing is not violence, nor chaos, nor conformity, but unexamined certainty. Certainty builds cage faster than fear. We can go, and if we talk about more review, if we talk about addiction to intensity, the men are not addicted to violence. They are addicted to intensity. Ordinary feel life feels muted. Flat violence restore contrast, sharpen sensation, makes movements feels thick again. Intensity become proof that life still has edges. Why calm feel like death? So where we were, guys, we were like, why calm feels like that? Stillness feels fleeting because it is some emptiness. Silence for reflection, reflection exposes obsession. Noise feels safer than quick truth. And why calm feel like that? Stillness feels threatening because it resembles emptiness. Silence forces reflection, reflection exposes. Reflection exposes absence, and if we talk about noise, feels safer than quiet truth, tolerance. Survival strategy, tolerance is not better. His attention is what the mind invites the endurance replaces meaning is evolved too long. It demands justification, and we talk about the disgust with comfort. Comfort feels insulting because it ignores suffering. The frames comfort and matter of struggle, of authenticity, of masculinity. Comfort is seen as cowardice, and if we talk about distraction as communication, the acts are messages, not solutions. The mains want to be noticed. The distraction says we exist and we are angry, and violence becomes language when speech fails. If we talk about inability to grieve, no one mourns losses never processed. Grief would slow the momentum, so and if we talk about brotherhood without intimacy, men stand together but never truly know each other. Vulnerability is replaced by endurance. They share pain, not self. And if we talk about Tyler's hatred of dependency, Tyler defines need, especially emotional need. This is why Maria is dangerous. She needs openly. Need treating the package is impossibility. The rejection of healing. Healing would require patience, softness, and time. The feminine want immediacy. Healing is the destruction is instant. And if we talk about control discussed as awakening, awakening should explain perception. Projects mayhem narrows it. Focus becomes tunnel vision, clarity shrinks into obedience, and the body as it is received Scar becomes evidence, proof that something happens, that life left a mark. If it didn't scar, did it matter? If you talk about Tyler's finally, the lie is not you are free. The lie is this will be enough. Nothing is ever enough when emptiness remains unexamined. The horror of being ordinary, the man fear mercy more than death. Being forgettable feels worse than being destructive. To be nothing is unbearable. Self-destruction as evidence, destroying the world, postpone the hardest task, building yourself. It is easier to burn than to grab the collapse of myth. When Tyler dissolves, nothing replaces him. The void is exposed and myth collapse. Responsibility remains. The ending as exposure, not closure. The film ends where certainty ends. What comes next is unknown, and that is the point. Ending that explain becomes prisons. If we talk about the film's unspoken question, if all system fail, if rebellion fails, if comfort fails, what do you do next without a script? And if we talk about absolute silence, Fight Club 1999 does not condemn masculinity, violence, or rebellion outright. It commends them as socialistic or identity substitute always expires. And if you talk about more review, then we can go for more. If we talk about the same beneath the rage, anger is loud because shame is quiet. The men are not furious at the world, they are furious at themselves for waiting approval from a system they defy seamless heights. And if we talk about behind feast, why humiliation becomes sacred? The film repeatedly humiliated its characters, waiting insult, degradation, humiliation, stakes, ego faster than pain. It becomes visualized because it promotes rebirth. If you erase yourself, maybe something stronger will appear. And if we talk about the hunger to be tested, nothing in their lives tests them. Honestly, jobs are artificial, rewards are symbolical, pain feels honest. Pain asks clear question, can you endure? And if we talk about Tyler as the voice of suppressed thought, Tyler says what the protagonist is ashamed to think. That's why Tyler feels truthful even when destructive. Truth without restraint still feels like truth. And if we talk about the replacement of father with the system, absence guidance leaves a vacuum, project mayhem feels it. Rules replace care, discipline replace wisdom, and structure becomes a surrogate parent. And why love is impossible here, love requires exposure, risk rejection, the man chooses control instead. Control feels safer than affection. If we talk about Marla's threatened is emotional reality. She doesn't mythologize. When she lives it, she survives it. She doesn't turn it into a document. Reality can't be organized. The fear of softness is embedded with weakness, tenderness, with failure. The film shows how this belief suffocates growth, hardness cracks, softness bends, violence as an antidote. Everyone's interrupt thinking. Violence is used to silence doubt, message, or quitter than questioning. The loneliness of power as Tyler gains control, connection disappears. Authority isolates, power does not cure loneliness. It replaces it with silence. The cost of, if we talk about the cost of become an idea, once Tyler becomes an idea instead of a person, he becomes unstoppable and inhuman. And ideas don't plead, people do. And if we talk about the movement, the film turns tragic. The tragedy is not the choice, how it is realizing the damage was never the goal, meaning sought through destructive cannot survive success. Consequence as the real enemy. The system collapsed not because of resistance, but because awareness returns. Awareness dissolves illusion, quality, responsibility without redemption. There is no forgiveness offered, only ownership. Owning harm does not heal it. If we talk about the ending as emotional bare minimum, Holding hand is not romance, it is grounding. It says, I am here, not solved, and if you talk of and presence replace answer, the film final express. You can't punch your way into identity, you can't destroy your way into meaning, you can't belong your way into self. Belonging without self, it is disappearance, and the fight is purely truth. The film suggests that many people don't want freedom. They want relief, relief from choices, relief from doubts, relief from self-authorship. If we talk about absolute strict clean, hard clean 1990 is about what happens when people confuse intensity for depth, pain for the truth, and belonging for identity. And then refuses to stop. If we talk about most, then yes, we can go for it. It's taking time and loading, guys. If we talk about the terror of being seen clearly, at the deepest level, the man fear being seen without performance. Not admired, not feared, not obeyed, just seen, ordinary, flawed, unfinished. To be seen without a role feels like exposure without armor. And why masks become identity at the first role are temporary fighter, leader, rebel, but repetition hardens them. The mask stops coming off. Eventually, the mask forgets the face. And if we talk about the aggression of pretending, the violence escalates because pretending consumes angry. Each act must be louder than last to maintain the illusion performance demands escalation. Taylor as the idealized self. Taylor is not who the protagonist want to be. Taylor is who he believes he should be, confident, certain, untouched by the ideal self. It offers the crucial stages, the hatred of vulnerability. Vulnerability threatens the entire structure. It slows momentum, it invites empathy. Empathy dissolves hierarchy. Vulnerability under power. And if we talk about why mercy is forbidden, mercy implies equality. Equality threatens control, so mercy must disappear. Equality is easier to organize. The addiction to belong. Belonging feels like oxygen when identity is in the most feels acceptable until there is nothing left to trade. Belonging consumes the self that sought it and the illusion of becoming real. The man believes authenticity must hurt. But authenticity does not require suffering, it requires honesty. Pain is no truth, it is sensation. And if we talk about the moment awareness returns, awareness doesn't arise dramatically, it seeks quietly, small inconsistence, delays, doubt. Truth rarely explodes. It's like why stopping hurts more than studying. Studying feels powerful, stopping feels empty. Stopping forces confrontation with what was avoided, ending a myth reveals the voice it covers. We talk about control turning against the self. Once external control is exhausted, it's the inward self punishment replaces the fear. The system eats it harder. We talk about the courage of film demand. The film does not ask for bravery in violence, it asks for bravery in remaining human without armor. A human is harder than hero. The ending is emotional grounding. Holding hands is not salvation, it is anchoring, it is a refusal to dissociate further, stay here, don't escape. If we talk about what the film never says out loud, most people are searching for truth, they are searching for relief from themselves. The final uncomfortable question: if pain, rebellion, masculinity, and belonging all fail, who are you? When nothing is growing you, if we talk about absolute silence, Fight clubs, hands wear guidance, hands no rules, no myth, no permission. Only the quiet responsibility of choosing what kind of person remains, what the noise stops, when the noise stops, and let's go for more review. If we talk about the fear of existing without justification, in the deepest point, the men are terrified that existence might not require justification. The light might not owe them significance. This is unbearable. So they manufacture response to exist. It existence is free. Then failure has no excuse. Uh, why suffering feels earned? Suffering creates the illusion of merit of life, but it must be worth something. Pain becomes a receipt. If it costs you, it must add up. If we talk about the horror of neutrality, neutral life here and there, heroic nor logic feels like eraser. The men reject neutrality with violence to be natural. Neutral feels like disappearing slowly. If we talk about Tyler as the voice of absolute, uh, Tyler speaks in absolute because absolute eliminate anxiety. Nuance require tolerance of uncertainty. Certainty comes whereby killing complexity. The inability to sit with emptiness. Emptiness is not the enemy. Resistant to emotion is the film shows what happens when emptiness is attacked instead of understood. Emptiness demands patience. They answer with faith. And to build from operation, the self is defined entirely by what it rejects softly, comfort, weaken, but self built on operation collapse when the enemy fades absolute and enemy who are. And why creation never happens? Creation requires vulnerability, time, and failure. Destruction offers instant identity. And if we talk about creation, risk and risk, destruction guarantee impact. If we talk about the body as the last tree, when meaning fails, the body becomes the final place to assert control. If the body is unreal, the body proves otherwise. If we talk about trailers, philosophy ends where care begins. Care complicates power. Care slow momentum. Care introduce moral fiction. Care undone domination. Why the world must escape. That escalating is not a strategy. It is necessity. The high fades, the pain normalized, meaning must be interesting. Addiction demands more. And if we talk about the silent return of the cell does not fade back loudly. It can quickly look upon a hesitation. The self survives in hesitation. If we talk about awareness, loneliness, seeing clearly isolation once illusion fall, shared madness no longer comfort, and clarity is solitary. If we talk about ending as a refusal, the ending refuses catharsis is no speech, no lesson, no moral accounting. Closure would become another myth, and what the film trusts with the viewer with. It trusts you with discomfort, it assumes you can sit without answer. Trust is here, the deepest accusation. The film doesn't accuse society, capitalism, masculinity, or violence. It accuses avoidance. Avoidance is of stillness, avoidance of self, avoidance of responsibility. If we talk about final layer, almost silence, fight club suggests that the most radical act is not rebellion, it is remaining present when nothing validates you, nothing explains you, and nothing exceeds you. No noise, no myth, no permission, just presence. And if we go for more, if we talk about the exertion after belief, after idealizing, collapse, something worse appear, fatigue, not despair, tiredness, the kind that comes from carrying meaning that was never yours. Belief is heavy when borrowed. The quiet disappointment in power was supposed to fix something. It didn't, it only amplified emptiness. This realization is unbearable because it means the effort was misplaced. Nothing hurts more than wasted conviction. Why extremes feels honest, moderation feels dishonest. Because it emits complexity, extreme feels criminal, simple, remove doubts by removing choice, tolerate to one. accepting loss of dreams and identify expectation. Unmourned loss become aggression, and if we talk about the fear that nothing is missing, what is nothing was stolen. What if no one cheated you? What if this is simple life? That thought of unbearable blame is easier than acceptance. So simply it was the movie review of this movie. I hope you like it. And let's meet tomorrow. So goodbye.